Hello everyone, this is a voiceover tutorial on how to build my F-22 Raptor Corvette. So I will walk you through step by step on the way that I construct this. So it's going to require certain tricks to be able to pull off some of the parts and their placement. So in my last video, if anybody is confused, I'll be able to hopefully sort that out to where you can build this magnificent Corvette. So let's go ahead and let's get started. This is what it's going to look like when it's completed. You can paint it and design it however you feel. I went with the classic kind of gunmetal look where you would see it in real life with the gold cockpit to try to mimic some of that gold cockpit window that you would see in the F-22 Raptor. Okay? So let's go ahead and without further ado, let's get started. So first things first, you want to create a new ship. So we'll go into create new Corvette. Okay, so for the first placement, we're going to go ahead and let's place down our landing gear to get started. I like to place it just in front of the center plus sign or the center X because you're going to have enough room going forward and going back. Okay, and it's going to kind of offset. So place down the landing gear. Let's go ahead and let's grab a walkway. Let's place it on top. Now with this particular craft, it's going to be a half walkway high compared to the landing gear. So we need to actually build this up by a half. So the way you do that is a building trick where you go in, you place another walkway on top, okay, and then we're going to force that walkway to come down by half size. Okay, so you can grab this, you can grab any one of these duckings, but I like to grab this duck outlet. Okay, so you can either place it on top or place it in the front. By placing it in the front, you can manipulate the walkway to drag it underneath the ducking. Okay, and so thus bringing it down by a half step. It does clip into this habitat, so just keep that in mind whenever you're building, that if you're going to use this as an actual functioning walkway or habitat, that it will blend into that. Okay, it doesn't disappear, so you won't realistically be able to use that as a functioning habitat. So just keep that in mind. But luckily for us, I've designed this F-22 Raptor to be functioning on the inside, so you have plenty of space on the inside to build out a full Corvette interior and the ability to get to the cockpit quite easily. Okay, so now that we've brought this down by a half step, if you notice whenever you're moving the landing gear, you can only move it at full steps. Okay, it doesn't have a half step, so what we need to do is we need to move this habitat a half forward. The way to do that is to take this right here, the rock hopper propeller. Okay, so what this does is if you place it on one side, as you can see right here, it actually brings it forward a half step. Okay, it doesn't do that on both sides, it only does it on one. Okay, so if I move it around, it doesn't allow me to bring it up a half step, but for some reason Hello Games allowed it to have a half step on this side, which is a benefit to us because now I can drag it forward a half step, and thus if you grab the module, and you can bring it up a half step. Okay, we don't need this ducking anymore, so we can just get rid of that, and we don't need this anymore, so we can get rid of that. So now that we brought it down a half and we brought it forward one, so now what we can do is I'm going to take a random piece. I like to use this joint module right here because it kind of has a curvature on the side. Okay, and this is going to be the bottom side of the aircraft. So this is going to be a little exposed, so you want it to be a little aerodynamic, and I find that this is the best stand-in piece for that. Bringing that down though, it allows us to bring our landing gear forward. Okay, so now it's realistically connected to the aircraft itself. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to remove this part. Actually, I'm going to place this part on top, because the next part that we need to do is probably the most complicated trick, which I feel like most of you are struggling with, is to be able to take this habitat and flip it in a backwards direction. So if we go into the cockpit. If you notice, cockpit's only placed on the forward side of the aircraft, whatever direction it's facing, okay? So if I try to drag it and flip it, it won't allow it to go onto the rear, only the front. So if we place it down on the front, what we need to do now is try to make this habitat face in the opposite direction, okay? And there's only one real way to do that. So if I were to copy this, drag it over, the best way to do this trick is to have this kind of 3 habitat module setup to where you have one on top and one to the side. I find it's the easiest way to manipulate this centerpiece, okay? Because you have to build a staircase leading up to a top module, so you have to have the top module on top to place a staircase underneath. But if you have one connected to it, I also find that it flips easier than if you don't have one. So I typically have this 3 habitat set up, okay? The rest of the things that we need are the basic requirements, which is reactor, thruster, access way, and then weapons. So let's go ahead and let's place all of those very quickly. So if we just grab a random thruster, don't worry, we're going to be deleting all this stuff, so it doesn't really matter your placement. But if you want to follow the way that I place it, this is how I place it every single time, okay? And then the last thing, this is the only one where you actually need to place it correctly, because we need to have access to the interior, okay? So we're going to place it on the module, which we're going to flip. So if you place it here, if you notice, you can actually access the interior through this module, okay? And that's a key factor in being able to flip it. So let's go ahead, let's complete this ship. So let's finalize our current design. Okay, let's compare it. Let's add it to our collection, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to walk up to it, we're going to place our ladder down. Okay. So grab around the staircase. It doesn't matter what direction you place it, okay? So you can place it in this direction or you can place it facing the other direction. But place it down, at least to the top habitat, okay? So let's go back. Let's go back into ship construction. And then let's modify. So now what we can do is if we go inside, facing through this, I've selected the habitat. It has the staircase connected to it. So now if you select it, the staircase stays, okay? Now if you didn't have the habitat facing off to the side over here, typically the staircase would disappear. So this is why I have that offset walkway, okay? So now if you, I'm on PC, so I have the rollers to rotate, but whatever console you're on, use the function to rotate it, and now you can rotate it. You know you rotated it because you no longer see the staircase, okay? So if I flip it back, you can see it. If you flip it, you can't see it. If I place it back down, now it's facing in the opposite direction, okay? So if I were to take this, typically it would connect to it, but now it doesn't. So that means that you've done it correctly. So now it doesn't connect. Even if I take this, okay, you can see that now it connects to this side. It won't connect up here, and it won't connect back to originally where it was, okay? So now you've correctly flipped this, okay? And this is a key factor in some of the wing attachments that we're going to need for this jet aircraft, okay? So let's go ahead and let's keep that way. Let's go ahead and delete all the modules that we don't need, okay? So with this one, we are going to double this up into a habitat, but for now, let's just keep it as it is. You're going to have to keep double checking all the different habitats that you attach to make sure that it's still flipped in the same direction. Because I can take this and see how it flips as I move it along, okay? So just make sure that you don't re-flip it back to its correct position. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's use that as a double. Let's go ahead and connect this as a double. Let's make sure that it's still flipped. It's still flipped. And let's take another one and let's connect it as a double. So this is the typical length of the aircraft, so it will be a double, and a double. So 3 doubles, okay? And the last piece of it will be the connection piece. So I can't actually connect this yet because it's flipped. So in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to connect this as a stand-in piece, but we will delete it later, okay? So the next piece that we're going to do is the tail wing, which is going to be flipped. So if we go in, we access there the S-foil, okay? This is going to be part of that tail wing fixture, okay? But what we actually need to do is we need to bring it up, and we need to bring it back by a half walkway, okay? So let's go back. Let's create a copy of this. Let's bring it up. Let's grab a ducking. Let's bring this down by a half step, okay? We don't need it. Let's go down. Let's go to the wing. Okay, so the wing can go right there, and it can go right there, okay? So it's a half step facing away from the craft, okay, on the back edge of the craft. So if I were to delete this out, that's what it should look like right there, okay? So you want that front bit coming off of the rear, and that's the correct placement, okay? The next thing that we're going to do is kind of how I mimic the top of the engines exposing from the aircraft itself. If you look at the F-22, it kind of has two bumps coming towards the rear to make room for the engines that go into the inside of the aircraft. It also doubles as a decoration because as we place the wings off to the side, they don't match the height of the center habitat, so it also kind of masks that connection, okay? You'll see what I'm talking about as we go along. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to add a habitat on top, okay? And we're going to offset it by a half measure. So the piece I like to use for this is the deflector shield. So if you place a deflector shield off to the side, what you can do is then take the habitat and you can force it underneath of it, and now it's off to the side by a half step, okay? And now I can take that, copy it, and then add another habitat section, okay? So let's take that, delete it, we don't need it. Let's go over here, let's add the ducking because we need to lower it by another half step. So let's take this, lower it by another half step, and then connect that too, okay? But we need to bring it back to the aircraft by another half step. So the last part is to grab the propeller. Okay, so let's take it back by a half step, just like this. And now if we bring this ducking back, now it's facing in the opposite direction, in the direction that we need it to go, okay? So now let's just make a copy of this, let's bring it over, okay? And then the rest of them we're actually going to place in the correct position, okay? The last bit that we need to do is the large section, which is the wing module, the Arcadia wing module. So if we go over here, we can actually flip it to facing forward, okay? And we're going to add it to that front section right next to the ladder, okay? That's the placement. Now you will place it again towards the rear, okay? But we also need to flip this back again, okay? So let's go ahead and let's do that. What we're going to do now is we're going to take these sections and we're going to delete them, because we need to take this section here and we need to flip it back, okay? So now if we were to take the front cockpit, now it's facing in the correct position, okay? So now let's go ahead and let's delete this, we don't actually need it. Let's place the two sections. Make sure that it's still facing the correct way. It's not, it's actually facing backwards. So if you take it, you can flip it again at will. So you can flip it as many times as you want, okay? This is kind of a leftover glitch. Once you flip a habitat, you're able to flip it on that axis again. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so now it's facing in the correct position. Alright, I can place the cockpit there. So let's go ahead and let's add some more. Okay, but let's delete that cockpit. That was more for visual purposes. So now if we were to take this and copy it, you can place it back facing forward again, okay? So now this completes that midsection part of the aircraft later, but to make it easier to create the wing, we're actually going to keep this section out for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's delete it. Let's delete this. Okay. We also don't need that, so let's delete that. And we don't need these sections anymore either, so let's go ahead and delete these. So what we're going to do now is we're going to complete the rest of the tail wings. Okay. The easiest way to find is to stack another module. Okay. And let's bring it down by half step. Just like that. And then let's drag it back. Select the wings, make a copy of them. Now you can complete the rest of the wing. Okay, just like that. So now you have the rear wing completed. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these vents and we're going to drag them back by another 6. But what we're going to do is we're going to flip them in the other direction. So let's take a fresh module. Place it here. Let's move it over by a half step. Like that. Okay. And then let's bring it down about 1. Copy it over to the other side, and let's copy this vent. So now they're matching, and they kind of bleed into each other. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this forward by half steps each, so we can drag this vent along by another 6. So let's go ahead and grab the propeller. That's 6. And now let's do it for the other side. So we'll copy this, bring this over, that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the engines. So what we want to do is come down here, let's take a fresh module, and let's place it down here, and then we're going to put it down by half step. Just like that. Now select the engine. So you want the engines just poking out of the rear. Just like that, okay? And they're attached to this module down here. See? Now we just delete that out. And now we have a good engine placement. Okay? So we don't need this module anymore, so let's go ahead and delete it. Let's replace it. Okay, so now you should be able to see all the way down. If you can't see all the way down, that means that one of the habitats are flipped in the wrong direction. And all you gotta do is just delete it in front of it. Okay? So you should be able to go all the way in and all the way out. Next thing we're gonna work on are the tail wings. So let's go to this side. It's a lot easier to start with this side. So let's go to habitat. Let's place down the habitat. Coming right off of the main habitats. Let's bring it back. Bring it back. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this. And bring it back another half step. Just like that. Go to wings. Go down to the Arcadia stabilizer. You want to add it here. Copy it. And then place another one here. Okay? And then take this one. Take this one. You're going to place this one on top. And then we're going to use the Raptor shield to bring it down. Half step. Just like that. And then we're going to use the ducking to bring it down another half step. And then last but not least, we're going to use the propeller to bring it back a half step. So they're basically kind of bleeding into each other. You're going to take the Arcadia wing, copy it, and then you're going to place it just like that. Okay? So that's how it should look. Okay? Easiest thing to do now is to take this, let's copy it, go up, over, down, copy the Arcadia wing, and then just replicate it on this side. And so now it should look exactly like the other side. Delete that. And the rest of it. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is work on the main wing here. The center point is right here. Okay? And if you were to copy this and make a copy here, this is where you want that center line. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to grab a habitat. We're going to place it directly on top. And then we're going to move it over. So let's go down, shield. And then we're going to move it down another half step and forward. So it's just like that. Okay. And then the piece I like to use as a good stand-in is down here. Okay, this is the ducking joint right here. Place it right there. Okay, that's a good starting point. And then feeding off of that, the wing you'd like to use is this one right here. Just like that. Okay. And then we can replicate it on the other side. So if we just grab this, just copy it over. now what we're going to do is we're going to move it over another half step. So let's grab F-10 module, place it directly on top. Raptor shield to bring it down a half step. And then we need to move it back. So let's go to so now it should just be a half step over. Delete that. Copy. Okay, so now we have two wings bleeding into each other, and now we're going to do it right on top. So let's copy this. Over. It's kind of tedious, but this is the best way that I can figure out on how to do this. There you go. So we need to delete those last two to get into place. Okay. And then place that down. Okay. So the easiest way to replicate this on the other side is to take it over using habitats. Copying these overs, just be extra careful that you have so many connection points that you're not bleeding them into each other or going a half step instead of your full steps. Okay. It's easy to make mistakes. So it should look just like that. Okay. Go ahead and delete that out. So now they're matching on both sides, so there should be 3 of them. Now you can take the tips and then you can disconnect them. Just like that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is keep continuing on building the wing. So we're going to go to habitat. We're going to place it right on the center box. We're going to grab propeller. We're going to bring it forward by a half step. And then we're going to go to the ducking. And we're going to bring it down by a full step. Just like that. Okay. So it's kind of bleeding into this third wing. Okay. And the center line. should have a placement right here, right in the center of the wing. So go ahead and place your module there. Let's grab our cable blade. Let's flip it. And you should have a placement right there. Okay? Take that. Let's go to the other side. Copy that. Placement right there. Okay? So it kind of bleeds into this seamlessly. Okay? Okay, so let's delete that too. And the last finishing touches, we're going to go into the turbine. We're going to flip it and place it here. Place it there. Okay. So that finishes the wings. Okay. Now we can go through, we can copy that, and we can finish this off. So now we fill up any gaps that gives that really nice silhouette. Okay. Last thing we're going to do is the cockpit and the front end. So let's go ahead and let's grab a fresh module. Place it right on top. We'll go into cockpits. Place the cockpit there. And then for the rear, we're going to grab the speed brake. We're going to place it right there. Okay. Just like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the nose cone. So if we go in, grab shield, place it off to the side, bring it over by a half step, go in ducking, and then we want to bring it forward by a half step. Okay, copy that, bring it down by one, so it should look just like that. Okay, delete that, and we're going to go into wings, go into the diffuser, just like that. And then we're going to move it forward by another half step. Back into wings. We're going to go with this one. Just like that. Delete that out. Delete that out. And now you have a nose cone shape that looks pretty symmetrical and pretty round. Finish it out. And I'm going to select this one right here. Okay. And in here, you can actually take the reactor. If you select this one, the Medusa, you can fit it inside. And now it's a secret reactor. And if you're turning this one into a fighter, this one typically has the best stats because you're going to get a better maneuverability and boost. Okay? So let's get the habitat module up here. Now let's add the air intake for the engines. And the one you want to use is this one. And you just want to flip it. And that's the placement you want. And then let's complete the underbelly over here. The easiest thing to do is to actually go in and let's delete the habitats. So what we're going to do is we're going to place normal habitat there. Bring it down by a half step. make sure when you place it, that it's placed correctly. So this one, this one, and now it's placed correctly. And there you have it. There is the F-22 Raptor. Okay. The last finishing touches that you'd want to put on it are the landing gear to the rear. So let's go back to the landing gear. And then you want to place it directly center on the engine. So last thing we're going to do is to add the weapons for the final touches. Now if you want to be authentic and place it into the nose cone, you can take your cannons and you can place it directly inside.